In nomine Patris et Filii Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Veni Sancti Spiritus, repletorum confiderium, et tui amoris in sine macende. Emite Spiritum tuum creabuntur.
Et nobis faciem terre.
Oremus, Deusque confiderium, Sancti Spiritus, illustratione loco Christi, da nobis in eadem Spiritu rectus sapere, et eis emigas lasere gaudere, in per Christum Dominum nostrum.
Amen.
Cor Maria Immaculatum,
Ora pro nobis.
Sancte Joseph,
Ora pro nobis.
Sancti Michaele Arcangele,
Ora pro nobis.
in Patris et Filii Spiritus Sancti. Okay, before you sit down in the chapel, there's the book with my St. Thomas, and there's another book that has Monsignor Segur. Can you bring that? It says 1789 on it. Okay, so we have been looking at the history of liberalism with Archbishop Lefebvre in his introduction to They Haven't Crowned Him. Let's look at chapter 2, which is also extremely important. He quotes Charles Maurras, a French author. Liberty is not at the beginning, but at the end. It is not at the root, but in the flowers and the fruits. There is a work that I recommend particularly to those who want to have a concrete and complete outline of liberalism, in order to be able then to prepare exposés on liberalism, intended for people who are little conversant with this error, with its ramifications, and who are accustomed to think liberal, even among Catholics attached to tradition. Yes, thanks. So many Catholics, it's a given, we're all liberal, especially Americans in the West Hemisphere. We're all liberal. We're all raised with Thanksgiving and apple pie. We're raised with, separation of church and state, liberty of all religions. The nice, friendly Protestants have their rights, and everyone has a right to spread their false religions, and we're all poisoned. We have to admit that. So the Archbishop, even he said, when I entered the seminary, I was a liberal. I believed in separation of church and state. He admitted that. Until he learned, wow, this is what the church teaches, that separation of church and state is actually a recipe of disaster. There are often those who do not realize the depth of the penetration of liberalism in all of our society, in all of our families. Yeah, so think how many families, for example, the liberalism, let TVs going, or they let their kids have a cell phone at a young age. They let their girls dress immodest. They let their kids date at a young age, which is totally liberal and totally disastrous, asking for disaster. And just a liberal attitude. Let me take a quick jump just from one paragraph, one or two pages from Father Louis de Segur. Father Louis de Segur. He's a French priest. And the book is called The Revolution of 1789. And I just want to, he has a good summary of what the Archbishop is saying here. He has a good summary. What is the revolution? What is the revolution? There is within the revolution a mystery of iniquity. This is very important because we have to admit Rome right now is gripped in this mystery of iniquity, the darkness, the darkness with the papacy and promotion of heresy and error and liberalism and New Mass and Vatican II. There is a mystery to it. You have to admit this. We don't have an explanation for this evil. There is within the revolution a mystery which the revolutionaries themselves cannot understand because it can be explained only by faith in faith they do not possess. To understand the revolution, one must go back to the father of all rebellion, to him who was the first to dare to say, and who has had the audacity to repeat from the beginning of time and until its end, to our God and Lord, non serviam. Who's that?
Lucifer.
And what's it mean?
I will not serve.
Non serviam. I will not serve. So St. Michael, his cry was, in the battle of heaven, his cry was,
Who is like God?
Quis ut Deus? Yes. Who is like unto God? Lucifer, humble yourself. You're a grain of nothingness compared to Almighty God. Yes, Satan is the father of the revolution. Capital R. It is his work, begun in heaven at the battle rebellion, not the heaven of the blessed, but the heaven of the imperial heaven, where the angels were created, and perpetuated among men from age to age. Original sin by which our first father, Adam, rebelled against God, introduced into the world not yet the revolution in its full and explicit form, but the spirit of pride and rebellion, which constitutes its principles. So what's behind the revolution is pride and rebellion against God and his order. From that moment onward, from Adam and Eve, evil increased day by day until the coming of Christianity, which confronted it and forced it to retreat. Later, now here we are in the 1500s now, later the pagan Renaissance, then Luther and Calvin, and finally Voltaire and Rousseau. So Luther and Calvin, they're 1517-ish. 1717-ish is Jean-Jacques Rousseau and Voltaire. Voltaire vowed to destroy the church. Yeah, that's Voltaire's, one of his words was, we will destroy the Catholic Church. We will get rid of her off the face of the earth. Once again, they exalted the accursed power of Satan, their true father. Favored by the excesses of Caesarism, that's the state support, this power received in the principles of the French Revolution a kind of public consecration, a constitutional form it had never possessed before. It is for this reason that it is rightly said that the revolution was born in France in 1789. So it long existed, but in 1789 you have the revolution against God manifested and written in constitutions and documented form. It becomes the rule of a country. In 1793, the ferocious Babeuf declared, he was a buddy of Voltaire, Babeuf, B-A-B-E-U-F, he declared, quote, the French Revolution is only the precursor of another revolution, far greater and far more solemn, and which will be the last. So the French Revolution kicked off in the political sphere, the ongoing revolution, which is now swallowing up Rome even. Right? Rome is now in the grasp of the revolution. All that's left are the handful of traditional Catholics, comparatively, throughout the world, who are holding fast to the real faith and the real Mass. So, and they said that we will, I have the exact quote, but I don't have it here. Something like, we will extinguish those in favor of the Inquisition, and those, basically traditional Catholics. We will extinguish them, and even the ones left, we will get. So even the islands that are left, we will drown out. So it's satanic. And with Our Lady, they're no match. That's why we have to have a great confidence in the Blessed Mother, Our Lady of Victory. She stomps on the serpent's head. So he says this revolution, capital R, will last. This supreme and universal revolution is the revolution properly so called. For the first time in 6,000 years, it dared to assume before heaven and earth its true and satanic name, the revolution. That is to say, complete and perpetual rebellion. Notice the Catholic mind, which I deeply appreciate from Father Segura. It's not thousands or billions of years old. He says the earth is 6,000 years old. He says it matter of fact, and it is. That's all it is. From Adam and Eve to here. 6,000 years. It's nice to see that, isn't it? Its motto, the revolution's motto, like that of the demon himself, is the famous phrase, non serviam, which means
I will not serve.
satanic in its essence and aspiring to overthrow all authority. Its ultimate aim is the total destruction of the reign of Jesus Christ on earth. This must never be forgotten. The revolution is above all a mystery of the religious order. It's a mystery in the religious sphere. It is anti-Christianity. Thus declares the Supreme Pontiff, Pope Pius IX, in his encyclical of December 8, 1849. He says, the revolution is inspired by Satan himself. Its object is to destroy Christianity completely and to reconstitute upon its ruins the social order of paganism. So that's what's happening now with Israel making all these wars, the U.S., its right-hand puppet, and the smashing of what's left of Christendom. A solemn warning confirmed word for word by the revolution itself. Our final aim, says the secret instruction of the Supreme Vante, our final aim is the same as that of Voltaire and of the French Revolution, which is the annihilation and complete destruction of Catholicism, and even of the very idea of Christianity. And I have a book with tons of quotes of the Freemasonic headmasters and grandmasters saying, we succeeded to get inside the church at the Second Vatican Council. John the 23rd and Paul the 6th are our popes. They issued in our ideas into the church, the bloodstream of the church. We will destroy the Catholic Church. It is war to the bitter end to destroy the Catholic Church. So what a noble battle you and I have the privilege to be in. It's a grace and a privilege to be even on the front lines, so to speak, of this battle against the whole revolution. And with Our Lady, there's victory. Without her, we're nothing. It is our Lord Jesus Christ in heaven and on earth, the Pope, his vicar. The history of the world is nothing other than the history of the gigantic struggle, the combat between these two commanders, Jesus Christ and Satan. And the Pope is victor. He's supposed to be fighting with Christ, but now he's fighting with Satan. So figure that out. On one side stands Jesus Christ with his holy church. On the other, Satan, with all the men he corrupts and gathers beneath the accursed banner of rebellion. The conflict has been fierce in every age, and we are living in one of its most dangerous periods, the age of the seduction of minds and of the organized enthronement of what, before God, is nothing but disorder and falsehood, right? Legalized abortion, legalized contraception, legalized divorce, legalized euthanasia, legalized assisted suicide, legalized transgender garbage. Just ongoing. The Pope and the Church now find themselves, this is written in the late 1800s, so when he's saying the Pope, they had good popes then. They find themselves, as always, upon the breach, defending truth and justice for all and against all. Hated unto death by revolutionaries of every kind, whose perverse designs and secret plots they unmask and thwart. One of our most illustrious prelates, as he lay dying, once laid bare the hatred and designs of the revolution against the Pope. The Pope, he wrote with a trembling hand, the Pope has an enemy, the revolution, an implacable enemy, whose fury no sacrifice can appease, and with whom all compromise is impossible. At first it asked only for reforms. Let's reform the liturgy. Let's reform the catechism. Let's reform the Mass, right? Today, these no longer suffice. Strip the Holy See of its temporal sovereignty. Mutilate the admirable work that God in France completed more than 1,000 years ago. Hand over piece by piece the revolution, the entire patrimony of St. Peter. And even then you will not have satisfied or disarmed it. The undermining of temporal existence of the Holy See is not an end, but a means towards a greater destruction. So for them it was a huge victory at the time of Vatican Council I to rob all the Vatican of all the papal states. That was a gigantic victory to steal them for the Freemasons. So what would this guy say now when they have a pope, 7 of them, trumpeting their ideas? Here, and he goes on to say, it is the divine existence of the Holy See and of the Church that is to be annihilated, and in such a way that not even a trace may remain. So think how successful this revolution really has been. When people growing up don't even know what the Latin Mass is, for example, which is the Mass of all the history of the Church. Right? And many Catholics just don't even know. They've never found it. They've never heard of it. That shows how really complete their revolution is. What matters in the end that the fragile dominion whose seat is Rome and the Vatican be confined within narrower or broader limits? What matter Rome and the Vatican, so long as there exists on earth or beneath it, in a palace or in a dungeon, a man before whom 200 million men bow as before the representative of God? The revolution will pursue God in that man, talking about the Pope. So here they are dreaming to surround the Vatican, and then Archbishop Lefebvre will quote other Freemasonic lodges who say, we will get a Pope who will promote our ideas. And they've had him. And if in the impious war, you do not resolutely take God's side against the revolution, if you capitulate, the very means by which you seek to restrain or moderate it will serve only to strengthen its sacrilegious ambitions and to inflame evermore its savage hopes. Made strong by your weakness, counting on you not merely as accomplices but as slaves, it will command you to follow it to the end of its abominable enterprises. After wrenching from you concessions that will have filled the world with consternation, it will still demand acts that will horrify your conscience. We do not exaggerate in speaking this way. The revolution, considered not in its accidental features, but in what constitutes its essence, is something with which nothing can be compared in the long series of upheavals humanity has endured since the beginning of time. The revolution is the most sacrilegious insurrection the earth has ever armed against heaven. It is the greatest effort man has ever attempted, not merely to separate himself from God, but to put himself in the place of God. Pretty powerful. And so he goes on to say, he quotes this Monsieur Bonald said 30 years ago, public religion is not in Europe if it possesses no property. Europe is lost if it has no public religion. One of the leaders of the Supreme Masonic Lodge, Vente, of Upper Italy, writes, the world must be de-Catholicized. Let us conspire against Rome alone. Revolution within the Church is permanent revolution. It is the sure destruction of thrones, monarchies, and dynasties. The conspiracy against the Roman Holy See must not be confused with other projects. So their one goal for hundreds of years has been tear down the Pope, and Rome. True Catholics, faithful disciples of Jesus Christ, gather around the Pope, the bishops, and the priests to fight the good fight and to keep the faith. I wish we could gather around the Pope. We can't. He's gone with the revolution. It's pretty frightening. It's frightening. And bishops, we can't even hardly find a bishop that's doing his duty the way that he should. We can't even find that. Each strives to repel the enemy and to make the good cause triumph by prayer, by good works, by action, and by word, by controversy, and finally by every legitimate means of influence. This is what forms the small and yet most mighty army of Jesus Christ. The revolutionary giant flatters himself that he will crush the Catholic Church, as Goliath once did before David. But God is with us, and he has said to us, "Fear not, little flock, for it has pleased your Father to give you the kingdom." Luke 12. Let us therefore advance and take courage. Young men, you have earned your place in our ranks. Hasten, run, and bring to your divine Master the oblation of your dawning happiness. In times such as those we have reached, every Christian must be a soldier, and Jesus, as he gathers us beneath the sacred banner of his Catholic Church, says to us, "Qui non est mecum contra me est." Anybody? Qui non est mecum contra me est.
He who is not with me is against me.
Yes, Matthew 12:30. So that's a great little work. So again, when you see it from the bird's eye view, you have Adam and Eve, which is about 5,199 years before Christ's birth, according to the martyrology. So Adam and Eve, and you have this is about 4,000 years before Christ. And then the high ages of the faith, and then the decline down to the modern world. That is the vision of history, how it's going. So let's continue with the Archbishop Lefebvre. It is easily recognized that the advanced liberalism of Giscard d'Estaing in the years around 1975 brought France to socialism. But it is believed in all good faith that the liberal right can deliver us from totalitarian oppression. Some well-meaning people do not know really whether they should approve or find fault with the liberalization of abortion, but they would be ready to sign a petition to liberalize euthanasia. In actual fact, everything that carries the label of liberty has been for 2 centuries surrounded with the halo of prestige that surrounds this word that has become sacrosanct, liberty. Liberty, liberty, liberty. And nonetheless, it is by this word that we are perishing. It is liberalism that is poisoning civil society as well as the church. Therefore, let us open this book of which I am speaking to you, called Liberalism and Catholicism by Father Roussel. Father Roussel. So he's quoting a book, a French author, Liberalism and Catholicism. I don't think it exists yet in English. But these books, hopefully, in time will be translated. This book was published in 1926, and let us read that page which depicts liberalism very concretely. Page 14 to 16, adding to this a little commentary. Quote, "The liberal is a fanatic for independence. He extols it to the point of absurdity in every domain." So we're going to go through what exactly this really means. And the Archbishop just does a masterpiece job. So there you have a definition. We are going to see how it is applied. What are the liberations that liberalism insists on? First point, the independence of the true and of the good in regard to being. So independence, freedom of the true and good from being. Okay, that's quite theoretical here. So, this is the relativistic philosophy of mobility and of becoming. The independence of the intelligence with regard to its object. Being sovereign, the reason does not have to submit itself to its object. It creates it. Once the radical evolution of truth, relativistic subjectivism. Relativistic subjectivism. This is how he calls it. Relativistic subjectivism. So that means, as far as the intellect knowing what is true, I don't need to bow down to believe that this is a brick chimney. I don't need to submit my mind to that reality. I can make my own truth. And I can make my own good. It is really it's the height of perversion, really. Relativistic subjectivism. Archbishop Lefebvre will explain this more clearly. Let us emphasize the two key words, subjectivism and evolution. Subjectivism and evolution. These are two pillars of the modern world. There's actually 5 main principles. We'll come to that. Subjectivism, and another word that Pius X uses is immanentism. Immanentism. Manens, staying, inside. Immanentism, that means the truth is inside me. I make my own truth. Immanentism is synonymous with subjectivism. Subjectivism means introducing freedom into the intelligence, whereas on the contrary, the nobility of the intelligence consists in submitting itself to its object, that is, in the adequatio or conformity of the thinking subject with the known object. So here you are stepping into some basic philosophy here. Okay, the intellect sees the tree. What is truth? Truth is defined as, by Aristotle and St. Thomas, the adequatio rei et intellectus. The conformity. What is truth? Veritas. What is truth? It is the conformity, adequatio,
of the intellect to the thing.
yes, of the intellect, of the thing and the intellect. Of the thing, the object, and the intellect. This is very important. Very, very important. And this is why Pius X hammers at the philosophical level modernism, because this is where they attack. So here, the man's intelligence sees a tree. The tree imposes its reality on him. He doesn't make the tree. The tree imposes itself on him. But this conformity of his intelligence to the objective reality outside him is truth. That's what truth is. Conformity of the mind to reality. So does the individual make the tree exist? No. Does the tree exist even if he doesn't even know it exists? Yes. But him seeing the tree imposes its truth on the mind. And the mind has a concept of the tree and a universal idea of what treeness is. And this is the beauty of Aristotle. He has such a respect for reality. While modern philosophy spits on reality and thinks they can reconform it, like Play-Doh, shape it to my image and likeness. Everybody following?
Yes.
It is its perfection of the intellect, of the intelligence, consists in its fidelity to the real. It is for this reason that the truth is defined as the conformity of the intellect and the thing, with the thing. The intellect works like a camera. It must fit with precision the intelligible touches of reality. Its perfection consists in its fidelity to the real. So what makes a good camera is that it carries the impression of what the picture was taken. That's real. It doesn't change it. So a good intellect conforms to reality as it is. It is for this reason that the truth, again, is defined as conformity of the intellect with the thing. Truth is that quality of thought by which it is in accord with the thing, with that which is. So being. So the conformity of the mind to what is being, what is true and good. So in Latin, what is truth?
Veritas.
Est. Veritas est, everyone?
Adequatio
Rei et
Again, say it again.
Veritas et adequatio rei et intellectus.
Veritas est. Adequatio rei et intellectus. Again.
Veritas est adequatio rei et intellectus.
And in English?
Truth is conformity of the thing and intellect.
Truth is that quality of thought by which it is in accord with the thing, with that which is. It is not the intellect that creates the things. It is the things that impose themselves on the intellect such as they are. Therefore, the truth of what is affirmed depends on that which is. It is an objective thing, an objective reality. It's outside of me. The person who is searching for the truth has to renounce himself, to renounce any construction of his own mind, to renounce any idea of inventing the truth. Powerful. And this is what why Protestantism is the first major assault on truth, because Luther takes religion and bends it to his own liking. Instead of conforming to it, he bends it to fit him. I don't like confession, get rid of confession. I don't like the Mass as a sacrifice, it's an abomination, get rid of it. I don't like some books of the Bible that mention purgatory, get rid of it. On the contrary, in subjectivism, it is reason that constructs the truth. So in subjectivism, immanentism, reason makes the truth. I make my own reality. And whose philosophy is this? Anthony?
Is this Descartes?
One step from him.
Kant. Kant.
Yes. This is Kantism. Kantism. On the contrary, in subjectivism, it is the reason that constructs truth. So reality and truth comes from within my mind. Hence, subjectivism, from the subject. It's not obedience to object. We have the submission of the object to the subject with subjectivism. So, the tree is formed by the man's intelligence. You see how stupid this is, how really bizarre and perverse this really is, right? It's truly perverse. And this is diabolic. It really is. So what's as a consequence? The subject becomes the center of all things. So it makes you laugh on the airplane when you get on, I forget which airlines, Delta or American Airlines. And we have prepared this flight, and we've got this huge Boeing 747, and it's all just about you. Ever heard that announcement?
Yes.
It's just so stupid. But there's the modern world. In such a case, things are no longer what they are, but what I think they are. In such a case, man disposes of truth according to his own taste. This error will be called idealism in its philosophical aspect, and liberalism in its moral, social, political, and religious aspect. As a consequence, the truth will be different according to who?
Me.
Right? You have yours. And if truth is within you, let me not pick on you guys. We got 5 people here. Each one is a subjectivist. Truth, they make their own truth. How many truths do you have?
You have 5.
5 different truths. You see how perverted this is. So what's going to establish truth in a given democracy?
The people.
But not everybody agrees. So we have to find out what?
The majority.
And you do that by casting.
Votes.
Voting is intrinsic to this system. At a national level. At a small level, like a monastery, like St. Benedict, has them vote for an abbot. And that's because everybody knows each other. But at a national level, it's a dream. It's not reality. But anyway, but truth will be established by... How will truth be established? By the 5.
By their own subjective opinion.
Yeah. And truth will be established by them voting on what they want to vote as true. So if they all vote, the whole nation votes for, like abortion to be legalized, well, it must be truth. It must be the voice of God, because the voice of God is the voice of the
People.
Oh, yeah. Is that the... Yeah. No problem. So that's the rest of the drywall coming. In such a case, man disposes of truth according to his own taste. This error will be called idealism in its philosophical aspect and liberalism in its moral, social, political, and religious aspect. As a consequence, truth will be different according to individuals and social groups. The truth is then necessarily shared. No one can claim to have it exclusively in its wholeness. It is made and it is sought after without end. it can be guessed how contrary this is to our Lord Jesus Christ and to his church. And this is why Pope Leo XIV just came out a couple months ago, early in his pontificate, saying we have to change the attitudes of people to begin to accept the sodomite agenda. So now they just released this document yesterday, as you heard, saying that homosexual acts are not necessarily sinful. So, they're already chipping away at getting rid of objective truth. And they've been doing this all along with Vatican II and long before Vatican II. This revolution, remember, goes back to, the fall of Adam and Eve, but in its essence, Protestantism and Freemasonry.
And I was going to say, the darkest part about this whole way of thinking is that once you convince people that no one has the whole truth or that you can't find the truth, is that even if they want the truth, right, even if they have like an innate desire to seek the truth, if they're convinced that there is no truth, they won't even look. Like even if they want to find what the truth is, they're convinced that, well, even if I want to find the truth, I can't find it.
Yeah.
So it makes them not even, it kind of just throws out the whole idea of looking and finding Christ. Seeking you will find. But if they're convinced there's no point in seeking.
So one response to that is suicide. That's why there are so many suicides. And the other response is, well, no truth, let's just party it up. Party up in this world and we'll see what happens in the next. Right? That's the average college attitude. Just party it up until, nothing really matters anyway. It's satanic, isn't it? Archbishop Lefebvre continues, historically, this emancipation of the subject in relation to the object, to that which is, was brought about by 4 persons. So he's going concretely to history. So this emancipation, this rebellion of the mind from reality, comes mainly from 4 persons' influential thoughts. Take a guess, the first one.
Immanuel Kant. Oh no, Martin
Luther. Second one. Ego cogito ergo sum.
Descartes.
And then
Immanuel Kant.
And then the French Revolution, Rousseau. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the noble savage. Luther at first refused the magisterium of the church and kept only the Bible. Right? Sola Scriptura, Bible alone, Bible alone, Bible alone. Since he rejected every created intermediary between man and God, he introduced the free investigation or private interpretation, starting with a false notion of scriptural inspiration, individual inspiration. So I got my hotline to the Holy Ghost. Then Descartes, followed by Kant, systematized subjectivism, which means the intellect is closed up on itself and it knows only its own thought. This is the cogito of Descartes and the categories of Kant. So the cogito ergo sum, and then categories of Kant. He put everything in categories. That's another explanation. Did they upload it?
I don't know, I can't see.
Okay, they have it there on the grass. Finally, Rousseau. All right, so for the for the Descartes and Kant, things themselves, the reality itself, cannot be known. That's the danger of Kant and Descartes. I cannot know reality as such, is their conclusion. I cannot know really if this is really true. I can't be certain I have a book in my hand. You can't be certain that there's a desk in front of you. You can't be certain that you even exist. I mean, you see how perverse this can be. And then finally, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, emancipated from its object, having lost common sense, the subject is left without defense, faced with the common opinion. So what establishes any form of truth to work with? A common opinion, the majority vote. The thought of the individual is going to be dissolved into the public opinion. That is to say, in what everyone or the majority thinks. And this opinion will be created by the techniques of group dynamics organized by the media, which are in the hands of the financiers, the politicians, the Freemasons, etc. And that's why Pope Francis was so big about synodality. Synodality was, well, all it boiled down to was, let's hear the perverts complain that they're not recognized by the church. And now Leo XIV is taking it, as he said at the pontificate when he began, I will continue Francis's work. And he's doing it. And what it means is they're going to canonize sodomy, the sin of sodomy. They're going to make it normalized and not a sin. So they've already done that with divorce. They don't say a word against abortion. You ever notice that? There's silence against abortion. And Pope Francis put a pro-abortion woman in charge of the pro-life movement in Italy. It's unthinkable.
So it's really just two stages. They wanted to separate God from the state in the French Revolution, and now in the Revolution they just want to separate God from the church.
And the individual.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's truly satanic. But we'll close there. And next class is Latin. Adiutorium nostrum in nomine Domini.